I saw Solo about 2 days ago. Uh, I was not looking forward to this a whole lot. I knew it was going to happen, and it was fine. That's it. I haven't really been excited for any spin-off movies, even though not a whole lot of them have been confirmed. The Boba Fett one was just confirmed. Um, the Obi-Wan one was kind of confirmed, not really, which I'll get to later. But yeah, so far the only Star Wars movie I'm more anticipating is Episode 9. But as far as the spin-offs, I don't really care that much. Just give me something to care about with these. So, Solo. It's fine. I mean, there isn't anything that stands out as being necessarily bad as a collective. There are certain elements that I think are bad. Some of the jokes are bad. Some of the plot elements are bad. Some of the characters are bad. But as a whole, everything works decently. Alright, so the plot. Because Star Wars movies, especially the newer ones, people are caring less and less about the plots and more of just the overall picture. So Han and his girlfriend Kira are trying to get off Corellia, which is established decently well as not a good place to be. They mention it every once in a while in the movies. Fuck the books. So they steal this piece of MacGuffin and they try to escape. There is this Jabba-looking creature, Mother something, Lady Prophet, I think her name was, who lives in a hot tub, and he says to her, hey, look, I got jumped or whatever, because she assigned him and Kira to go get her something. And that's kind of what you expect of Han Solo. He's always making up things, he's always lying his way out of any task he's given. In a kind of Han Solo-ish way, he throws a rock at a window, breaking it, releasing sunlight, and burning the Jabba lady. He steals a space convertible, and him and Kira escape in it. There is a way where they establish how Han's always doing those, like what he does through asteroids and stuff, turning his spaceship vertically so he can make through a small crevice. That's another thing I want to get into. Everything in this movie is established. Everything. To the point where it gets obnoxious. We find out that his last name is Solo because, he doesn't have a people, he doesn't have a family, so how about we call you Han Solo? We find out how he gets his blaster. We find out why he calls Chewbacca Chewie. I mean, who cares? Who cares? So then he joins the Imperial Army because at the TSA gates, him and Kira get separated and he loses the MacGuffin. So for 3 years he's fighting. He wants to be a naval pilot, but he gets kicked out for having a mind of his own. And he is sent to basically the Western Front. It's gray and mud. Muddin'. Muddin'. You ever been muddin'? And he finds these people who he knows aren't in the Empire. It consists of Woody Harrelson, a black lady, a monkey played by Jon Favreau, maybe a couple others. I don't know. This is a Star Wars side quest story. That's the kind of characters they have. So, yeah. Han asks to be a part of them. They say no. He is very persistent. So they tell on him and he gets thrown in a pit where a monster is going to get him, and it's Chewbacca. Yeah. So he speaks Wookiee in a very embarrassing scene. A scene which caused my friend to walk out of the theater just for the entirety of it. And he basically says, hey, you want to leave? Me too. Let's get out of here. So they break out of the pit and they say, hey, come on, let us back. and conveniently enough, they let him on, and he's like, hey, we're bounty hunters. So they go and they try to steal a bunch of MacGuffins from this train, which you saw in all the trailers. In a decently exciting scene, there's a lot of corny lines. The black lady dies. Han and Chewie's dynamic becomes stronger, which is pretty much the strongest part of this movie is their dynamic. So Han, with leaving no choice, has to blow up the train, or at least the part that they needed with the MacGuffins, because other bounty hunters are trying to get them. So they go to the boss who they want to pay off, who is Vision from Avengers, and Han finds out that Kira is his sex slave, servant, whoever. She has a Mad Max tattoo right here. So they're assigned to go get some more, and they run into Lando, played by Donald Glover, who does a pretty good performance. I've heard some people say that he wasn't that good, and that he was just doing a Lando impression. I don't agree. Same with the Han Solo guy. I felt like he did a pretty good job. I don't really care that he didn't look that much like Han Solo. For me, it's more of if he did a good job, and he did a good enough job. Donald Glover, I'd say, was slightly better, maybe because I like him, and I like Donald Glover. Him and Han go in their famous card game for the Millennium Falcon. Han loses, and he asks Lando to help them. Lando says sure. We find out that Lando actually owns the worst character in Star Wars, a robot called L6. Be prepared. I hate this character more than Jar Jar. I'm serious. This is a terrible, terrible character. I'm not sure what they were doing. I'm not sure if I want to go far as pandering, because she acts like a feminist a lot, a stereotypical feminist, to the point where it gets obnoxious. Everything she says is like some sort of like sassy quip to Han or to Lando or whatever, and they do some mildly, suggestively sexual things, like she points to her crotch and says like, my gears are all messed up, you're gonna have to do that thing later, which causes Han and Kira to laugh. So fucking funny. So Han beats up his guard, and Chewie rips the arms out of his guard's sockets. L6 creates a prison riot in a decently fun scene. This is just a little side note thing I want to complain about. All the blasters in these new movies sound terrible. It's nitpicky, I know, but they all sound like phasers now. They all sound pew pew, like squirt guns, whereas in the older movies they sounded dark and more menacing, more brooding. And just the shootout when they're escaping Kessel sticks in my mind. So then Han and the gang all go into the Millennium Falcon and escape with the MacGuffins, but they find out that the Empire has been chasing them, and he has no choice but to go outside the only tunnel to Kessel. The tunnel is called the Kessel Run, and they say if you go past it, which is like this cloud circle thing in space, this cylinder, if you go outside it, then you're pretty much dead. They go in it, and definitely the funnest scene of the movie, Han is evading monsters. Yeah, there's like these space tentacle monsters, Cthulhu, Kraken, whatevers, that are trying to kill him. There's some TIE fighters, he shoots them. And we also find out that the MacGuffins, if they aren't dealt with soon, that they'll explode. And so you got that element, which makes it even more exciting. And we find out that if you just put one drop of the MacGuffin juice in the hyperdrive, then you'll be able to blast out, because they're starting to get sucked into a quasar, which in the funniest scene of the movie, they lure the Kraken into with the escape pod. That's why the Millennium Falcon, if you see it, it has this thing on the front of it. Yeah, it's got that. Turns out that's the escape pod, and then you just got the Millennium Falcon. They shoot the escape pod into the quasar, luring the Kraken in, with all of its flesh being ripped off. It's screaming in agony. What the fuck, Ron Howard? So then they get blasted, and he does the thing again, the vertical thing, and they make it in time. And so there's these bounty hunters. I think they're like affiliated with the ones that they try to get the MacGuffins from earlier with the train. And Han says, "Hey, we should team up." And they're like, "Okay." And Woody Harrelson's like, "Yeah." Lando is like, "Fuck you, I'm leaving. I hate you all." So then they go back onto Vision's yacht, and they're like, "Hey, we got the stuff." So then Vision's like, "You should never trust everyone that you trust." And then Woody Harrelson is like, "Hey, I told you, kid, you should never trust everyone you trust." He says, "These MacGuffins you gave me are fake." And he's like, No, these are the real MacGuffins. And we knew that you were going to double cross us. So it's like a double cross to a double cross to a double cross. So then Vision and Han get in a fight in his office on his yacht. And Woody Harrelson is trying to escape with the stuff. He takes Chewbacca as prisoner. Han kills Vision, and then he escapes. Kira turns on this hologram, talks to a guy in a robe, which is her boss, and it's Darth Maul. Darth Maul is in the Solo movie. Darth Maul has been taken into the original trilogy era. You see, I thought that we as a collective were just gonna forget that they brought Darth Maul back in the shows. I thought that was behind us. No. This, like, completely cements it. He intimidates her with a lightsaber over the phone, and that is the point where I started to mentally check out. Because that's another thing with this movie. I wouldn't go so far to say it's boring, but it is, for a Star Wars movie, pretty dull. The cinematography is very bland, except for Kessel. Kessel looked cool. Everything else, the Mud Planet, Corellia, most of the other scenes were gray and ugly. There are certain scenes that go on a little too long. I'm not saying that they should just jump around all the time, but you'd expect a Star Wars movie to have a certain energy. I mean, The Last Jedi was 2.5 hours, and I wasn't bored ever. This started to get into Arrival territory. Not bad-mouthing Arrival. Arrival is great. It just had that type of pacing. So then Han shoots first and kills Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson instantly forgives him. They do some terrible dialogue about Han joining the rebellion in the future. That's like, soon enough you will. I don't fucking know. And it ends. It's a fine movie. That's all there is to it. It's fine. It's safe. It's harmless. It's underperforming. I gotta talk about that now, don't I? Okay, so Han Solo is so far the worst performing Star Wars movie ever in terms of opening weekend and just overall trends. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that this one is just coming out way too early. The Last Jedi came out 5 months ago. That's not enough time to digest 2 movies, especially 2 Star Wars movies. The thing that was always great about Star Wars is you had to wait 2 or 3 years to see the next one. I could deal with 1 a year. That's fine. There's not really much else going out around the same time that I would want to see, aside from Oscar-y type movies. But I want to see blockbusters, and Star Wars never really disappoints when it comes to that. The universe of Star Wars in film form is not big enough to sustain 2, 3, 12 movies a year. This isn't Marvel. Marvel has enough already established to do something like that. Star Wars is tiny, okay? There's not really much else to it, and anyone you talk to, hardcore fan, not a fan, kind of a fan, will agree with you. Stop doing this. I think their reasoning is because they want to get back into the May cycle of things. Star Wars used to always come out in May. Then The Force Awakens had some delays, so it was pushed to December. And I think they're trying to get back on that. That's what I think. So Episode 9, or whatever spin-off is next, whatever cartoon they're putting out, is going to come out in May. I could be wrong, and they're just being stupid. Whatever it is, I think this is Disney's wake-up call for sure to calm down. Hopefully that's the reasoning. People are saying all types of stuff. It's not doing good because it has white men in it. It's not doing good because it has black men in it. It's progressive. It's regressive. It's fucking Star Wars. It came out too quickly. It's not Deadpool 2's fault. It's not Avengers' fault. It's not I Feel Pretty's fault. It's Disney's fault. Disney, please, 2 things. 1, calm down. And 2, please, please, please get rid of a Star Wars story subtitle. I was able to put it past me with Rogue One. I wasn't able to do it with this. It's tacky, it's weird, it's corny. I don't like it. Nobody refers to it as Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Nobody refers to it as Solo, a Star Wars story. It's Solo, it's Rogue One, it's stupid. Just stop it. If I were to give this a numerical score, generous 7. I gave Rogue One a 7, but that was more of like a 7.5. If I see it again, maybe it'll go to a 6. It's definitely not an 8, no question. If I were to rank all the Disney Star Wars movies together, it'd be something like this. This changes a lot. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. Would I recommend Solo? Sure. If you like Star Wars, yeah, you'll like it. If you want to see a competently made action movie with above average effects, which is one of the strongest points of the movie, it's a Star Wars movie. They all have good effects. And you want to see something that's slightly better than the competition, go ahead. There's not really much else you can see. Let's help this movie make back its production budget.